Hey guys, welcome to the Real and Repeat podcast. This is going to be our first episode here. We're going to be covering all kinds of cool stuff on this one. We've got a show ahead that has some stuff about Fallout, some Spider Noir and Brand New Day. We've got viewer questions, and we've got our special guest, Dawson. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm DJ Wiedrich, or Dawson, depending on who you are. And I'm a comic artist, and Aaron and I go way back with podcasting and all that good stuff. And it's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you, man. We appreciate having you. You're the first guest on the show, so that's going to be pretty cool. We're going to talk about some really cool stuff today, and especially comics, which I know that both of us, love.
hmm
So that's going to be really cool. So the first thing I want to touch on is like the mission statement of the channel here. So what we do is we talk about film, news, video games, anything that covers any of those topics. And we also like to talk about like what we're into and just things we like, because I feel like that's something that it's easy to be official on a lot of things, but it's fun to talk about things that you're actually interested in. So that's something that is important to me, and I know for a lot of people. So the first thing we're going to talk about, we're going to move into topic one, which is going to be the State of the Union, thoughts on the DCU. So what direction they're going in, the different things that are happening within the DCU and its extended properties, TV, movies, things like that. So I'll start out. I have seen. There's a couple things that I have not seen. So I've
Mm.
seen Superman. I've seen. I guess Peacemaker season one. They've kind of turned into like part of the DCU, but I guess. But I've seen season one and half of season two of Peacemaker.
Mm.
And then I've seen Creature Commandos, and I think that's everything so far, right? Am I wrong?
I think that's about it. I mean, they're coming out with Supergirl, but we only have a trailer for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they announced some other different things that, of course, hadn't come out yet because they were doing a Waller show, or they had announced a Waller show. There's the Lantern show that's had some like promo images for it. But yeah, as far as actually released things, I think that about covers it, unless I'm
Yeah.
forgetting something.
No, I think that's it. I know that there was like an initial slate that had a bunch of other stuff. But those are the things that I've seen and caught up on. Um, and I think there was some didn't they do some spin-off comics for Superman, if I'm not mistaken?
Oh man, I couldn't tell you honestly. There's
I thought
so much stuff that's
I
come out.
swear
This
I thought, but so I guess it kind of starts with did was it I think Peacemaker came out first.
hmm
Um, so I think Peacemaker I did like the first season.
mm.
It was a little different than stuff that I usually like in the comic book realm, but I did like the first season of the show. The second season though was where I kind of lost interest a little bit.
Mm.
With the especially with the story and the direction that they were taking. I think it went like to an extreme of season one. What did you kind of think of
Mm.
Peacemaker?
I watched the first 3 episodes of the first season and refused to watch anymore. That's kind of where I was at, and it's not out of like any type of spite for James Gunn. I like a lot of what James Gunn has done in his career with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and stuff he's done outside of DC stuff. Especially like Scooby Doo. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna I love Scooby Doo, so
yeah,
there's that. But yeah, no, I watched the first 3 episodes of Peacemaker, and so I'm not the best judge of the show, but it just wasn't for me. I got to the end of the 3rd episode, and I told myself I'm gonna at least give it a chance. I always try to do that. I try to give everything out there that at least somewhat falls in my field of interest a chance. And I did with Peacemaker, got to the end of the 3rd episode, and I just again, I was not vibing with it. And this might be a hot take for some people, but it really just felt like to me that Peacemaker, or at least as James Gunn wrote him, was just a more obscene version of Star-Lord.
yeah,
And that's all it kind of was to me. And I had a really hard time looking past that. So this says a lot more about me than about the show necessarily. But so I couldn't really get into that. And then the second season came out. And obviously, since I didn't want to finish the first season,
yeah.
had no interest to watch the second.
Mm,
That's just how that works. But outside of that, Creature Commandos, I've seen clips. Seems at least somewhat interesting. I like animation. Just hadn't taken the time to actually watch it. The main thing that I have watched is Superman,
hmm
which I have a lot of mixed feelings about personally.
mm,
There's things about it that I do enjoy. There's some action sequences. There's some shots from like, okay, yeah, that's pretty solid. And the suit, although not my favorite, grew on me a little bit
Mhm.
to where I could tolerate it. It still definitely looks like a Supermanified Guardians of the Galaxy uniform, but that's just James Gunn's style. I'm not really going to dock him too much for that. But um, there were other things about it too. Like, for instance, I live in Kansas, right? And of course,
Yeah.
Clark grows up in Smallville, Kansas. And when we see, the Kents when they go to the Kent farm in the movie, it felt like how a Californian thinks a Kansas farmer acts.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
caricature of a Kansas farmer, and again, as someone who lives in Kansas, I'm not native to Kansas, but I live
Yeah.
amongst Kansans, right? I was like, "That seems a bit California out of touch to me." And then some other story elements, and I think one of the biggest issues for me was just well, that was just the tone. And again, when you have different directors, with these characters, you're gonna have some different ideas, and that's awesome. I love that. I'm all about alternate ideas. I'm all about exploring characters in different ways and different avenues and all that. But color grading was an issue for me. Story beats like the typing monkeys in that
Uh,
stupid void realm. There's a lot of things about it that I just wasn't into. It kind of explored a lot of things in the Superman lore that I'm not as crazy about, if that makes sense.
yeah. And I think, what you were saying about Creature Commandos, I think that worked more for me personally because I
Mm,
think oddly James Gunn's style works really good in animation. I think that like
yeah,
the tone and the way that everything has like kind of like a little bit of like a levity to it where there's not a lot of super serious moments works more in animation I think than when he's trying to take these like characters that are traditionally like Peacemaker, like you were saying, is not anything like that in the comics, like to the
right.
degree that he is in the show.
Yeah,
um
he's a very serious guy in the
yeah.
comics and kind of to the point where it's a bit ridiculous and obnoxious and you kind of make fun of him a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but and I get the direction he was taking that. He was doing it in a way of like he is so serious, so he's a funny like straight man in the show where everybody else. But the problem with that is that everybody else was also goofing around and silly.
Mhm.
If everybody else was serious, and then you have Peacemaker over here like peace is my number one priority, like then it's funny.
Yeah, you make the character stick out like a sore thumb in order to have more of a humorous
Yeah,
impact. That's
yeah,
how you do it, and James Gunn has a hard time doing that. Him and Taika Waititi kind of fall in that camp where they have a hard time letting things settle, at least in a serious way. I think James Gunn's a little bit better at that than Taika
yes,
is.
I can
But yeah,
I can definitely palette James Gunn stuff a lot more than Taika Waititi.
yes, 100%.
Like I could sit down and I can rewatch Superman, I can rewatch stuff like that. I will never watch Love and Thunder ever again in my life. Like like I will never that will never be
I wish
on
I
my
could
screen.
delete that movie from my memory.
Yes,
That's
yes.
the only reason I didn't walk out of Love and Thunder is because I went there with my little brother and we were making fun of the movie the whole time.
Yeah, literally same. Yeah, we went with some
Yeah.
friends, and they were invested, and I wasn't. So I was like, I'm not gonna walk out. So
Mhm.
yeah, that movie. That's an example of like I think that's so far to the other side of like ridiculousness, goofy. And
Yeah.
I think Chris Hemsworth actually just made a comment about that where he was like he didn't realize people were gonna hate it that much. And it's like, well, I wouldn't have hated it personally that much if they didn't choose the Jane Foster storyline to do that comedic of a thing. That's a super serious story.
Well, what's funny about that is that when they have that little montage showing like, well, Jane's mom, died of this cancer and now she's experiencing the same thing. It was one of the most ironically hilarious parts of the movie because the editing was so bizarre
Yeah.
because it shows her and her mom like laughing and conversing together while they're in the hospital and then it like side swipes to her mom just kind of comedically dead on the bed and it's
Yeah.
just like what are we doing? This is supposed to be serious. And
Yeah.
I laughed, not because I'm like an evil person, but because the editing was so
Yeah.
ridiculous. But
You're
but
supposed
anyway,
to like you're
yeah,
supposed to feel for that. Yeah, and that's
yeah,
that's something that I think that's another big aspect of something with the DCU that I feel like is holding it back a little bit is the choice of story to do these comedic kind of
mhm,
films in. Is like,
yeah,
I feel like the first Superman movie should have been a little bit more on like the grander scale, the little more like serious tone. and then like you can have levity a little bit later, but this was the establishing
Mhm.
film. You know, it was important, I think, to set the tone up for the rest of the universe. So I don't know, like Lex, I actually like Nicholas Holt as Lex
Mm.
Luthor. I think he's a good cast for that, but I think that the direction and the writing kind of held it back a
Yes.
little bit.
Nicholas Hoult is a fantastic actor who can nail any role that he is given 100%. And there are parts where it's like, okay, I can see this. But like you said, the direction for him
Yeah,
and how they kind of made him more of a petulant, spoiled brat than an evil mastermind.
yeah,
That was another thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But when you talk about, the tone of a first Superman movie in your franchise, right? I think Warner Brothers and maybe even to some extent James Gunn were so afraid of getting the "oh, Superman is serious" label that
mm,
they didn't necessarily overcorrect, but they got kind of close to that. To where it's like you're so afraid of letting things be like Superman is an awe-inspiring figure, right? He is a being who can fly, super strong, all these different abilities. He's a being that, for all intents and purposes, according to reality, just shouldn't exist. And so that should be inspiring in some way, but they don't really like, for instance, there were situations where they had the kaiju in the city, right? And you have these people just standing on the ground, just recording at the foot of the kaiju, recording with their phones. It's like, no, no, no. This is almost like a 9/11 situation. You're running for cover, right? You're running for any sort of safety, but they're just like, oh, check us out. Oh. I think it kind of takes away a lot of seriousness that could be in the DCU. And I do think that was a little bit by design to try to get DC out from the umbrella that has been cast on it of, oh, like dark and serious, when a lot of DC can be dark and serious. I mean, we've had conversations about
yeah.
this
Of
ad
course,
nauseum,
yeah,
um, but I think they need to allow some of that in,
yeah.
or else it's just gonna feel like, for all intents and purposes, a Saturday morning cartoon, which has no real like you'll look back on a cartoon and think, "Oh, it was a fun part of my childhood," but it doesn't really stick with you
No,
like a serious
yeah.
world told story does, you know?
Yeah,
So
I can put
that's
on,
the thing.
I can put on like Superman the animated series
Yeah.
while I'm working, and it's a nice thing that I can watch and enjoy, but it's not something that like, like you were saying, like 2 weeks later, I'm not going, oh my God, the implications of what happened in that is like,
Yeah.
you know, whereas like, and of course, me being, both of us big Snyder fans, but like
Mhm.
something I still think about Man of Steel. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
to this day, I'm like, man, like there's stuff in that movie that I think about. So
Yeah.
it whereas with Superman, I feel like there were a couple things that I really liked how he incorporated it into the movie.
Mhm.
I liked the fact that I feel like the twist that he did could have worked with with
Mm.
with the evil Kryptonians. I feel like that could have been handled better because it genuinely is something that I could see happening in like a comic run. You find out
Sure.
that Krypton were these evil megalomaniacs that were ruling. They kind of did that in Man of Steel. Zach kind of had that where there was a certain group of Kryptonians that were all about like
Yeah, it wasn't
purity
this
and like
perfect society that was united in a purpose.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
there
sure.
was a splinter group. I feel like
Mhm.
that's something that he could have explored, but just having, you know, his real parents be just they're just evil.
Mhm.
Because you think in the movie, you're like, okay, Lex has altered the footage. He's made it just so he's trying to like bait Superman into losing it because he realizes that his whole childhood was a lie.
Mhm.
And then the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, okay, so we're gonna find out at the end of the movie that that was doctored footage, and that
Mhm.
his parents really were setting him out to be the symbol of hope.
And I was thinking that too
Yeah,
until Mr. Terrific said, "Yeah, I checked it. It's not altered." And it's like, okay, so you're dying on this hill then. You are bound and
yeah,
determined to
they're
make
evil.
this,
Yeah,
yeah, set in stone. And the way that like I don't know, it just really bugged me how again, the portrayal of both sets of parents.
yeah,
You have what they portrayed as sort of dumb but nice Kansas farmers, and again, the Californification of Kansas farmers. And then you have the evil parents from space who say, have a harem of human women. It's like, okay, so basically, Superman's parental lineage is not great regardless in
yeah,
this iteration,
yeah. It's
which
not fantastic.
which, for a lot of comic purists out there, you look back at the comics and both sets of parents are a big reason he is who he is. The kind and gentle sentiments his parents taught him in Kansas, and also the hard work and the idea of justice and truth. And then, of course, you have his Kryptonian parents who, talk about like responsibility and also just, this great rich heritage he has. There's elements of both that creates the Superman character as we know. And I think both, in a sense, were subverted in Superman, which you can subvert things with long-term characters. I mean, I love many different things that subvert ideas about long-term characters because it's refreshing, it's interesting. But when you subvert it to this degree and it just doesn't quite hit,
Yeah.
then it just kind of
That
I
was
struggle with it.
that was the problem for me, is it was the execution of it.
Hmm.
And I think that, a great example, um Kevin Costner as Pa Kent,
Mm,
and um and I'm forgetting Ma Kent's actress's name. I'm blanking on it, but they both portrayed the Kents to me. That was a great example of showing like hardworking farmers, but they weren't like, portrayed quite the way they were in Superman. You
mhm,
believed that Kevin Costner worked on this farm and he was just an everyday man that put in a day's worth of work,
mhm.
and I believed that. Whereas in this one, it did feel more like what you were saying, like more of like a caricature of like, we work on a farm. It's like it,
Mhm.
it, it really felt like that, and I think that ultimately, if he had had at least one set of his parents that had worked in the movie, I think it would have been, at least that would have saved it a little bit for me. But it was
Yeah.
that both they kind of fumbled both parents. I was like, ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, when it comes especially to the Superman lore, when it comes to
Yeah.
that, like, you have to at least get one set right, you
Well,
know?
and the thing that also is that that's the same twist that they did in Guardians 2, where
Yep.
he finds out that his alien parents with oh man, Ego, he thinks that he's good, and then they turn out to be evil. Where his
Mhm.
Earth parents are the good ones and his space parents are the bad ones. That's the same exact storyline.
Yeah, that's a problem that I kinda have is that he has a lot of repeating tropes, which a lot of directors do,
Yeah,
for sure, like, they have their style and things, but when it gets to that point where it's that easy to spot, it
yeah,
becomes a little bit more or less about, like, style, and it feels more like I hate to accuse a very busy and very active director like James Gunn of this, but it kinda comes across as lazy.
yeah,
Um, but I don't know. And then connected with that, you have Supergirl, coming out here. I don't know the release date of that, but I've seen trailers and stuff. That's one that has me kind of intrigued, but it's kind of on a similar line where a lot of it comes down to characterization,
yeah,
because one of the first comics I ever read was Superman Batman by Jeff Loeb and Michael Turner. I think it was issue number 8. It was the issue where Supergirl comes down to Earth. And it's the storyline where, Darkseid takes her, tries to train her as his protege, and all this different stuff happens. And Supergirl to me, was, obviously a bright, charismatic figure, but also was a figure that was involved in some serious stories. Whereas the version they're going with now is still in a serious story, but she's, sort of a drunk, responsibility avoiding, almost like late teen.
yeah,
And that, I don't know. Again, a lot of it comes down to personal preference, but Lobo looks pretty cool. I mean, his design is pretty top notch. I mean, Jason Momoa, I mean, he's Lobo. I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah.
works. Um, I've seen a lot of criticism for the trailer online that it does look a lot like Guardians of the Galaxy, which again, surprise, surprise. But it's weird because James Gunn's not directing it. I can't remember who the director is.
Oh
Um,
man, let me
but
check
of course, he's
actually. Yeah.
producing it.
Yeah, he's producing it, and of course, like just like with the later DCU stuff, he's gonna have a lot of notes and things.
Mhm.
Craig Gillespie is who's directing it.
I'm not even sure if I know what else he's
I'm
directed.
not sure either, actually. I remember looking it up because I remember hearing his name. He was actually, I think, at some point in the running for a different DC movie, and
Mm,
he eventually got this in the DCU. And I mean, like, I wish I like that's the thing that I feel like a lot of people think that have criticisms of the DCU. I wish the DCU the best.
yeah, absolutely.
I want good DC content, I mean, I love DC. It's my favorite even over Marvel. Like I love DC stories and the characters and how
Mhm.
how you know deep it can get. there's a lot of
Yeah.
times where DC gets really like deep into like some philosophical ideas and things like that. I love DC
Yeah.
and I want the DCU to succeed. That's why it's even more frustrating, I guess, for me and you both and people like us where we do have criticisms and it's frustrating because we want to see these stories played out on the
Yeah.
screen. Whether it be animation or a movie, anything like I don't know, it's a little frustrating.
And to me, like, what's maybe a little frustrating and also just kind of is what it is to me is that there are 2 DC projects that I'm very excited for, but they're not really at all connected to the main storyline of what's happening with the DCU as it's being established. And of course, the first one being the Batman Part 2. Like, I cannot freaking wait for that movie. I'm a huge Batman guy. I loved the first one. I'm super glad they've doubled down and said they're not connecting it to the, bigger universe that they're building. Let it stand alone. I love the Penguin show. I love everything about what they're doing with that universe. It just it tickles that Batman itch for me. And then the other one that I'm really excited for, which we haven't really heard jack squat about, is the Swamp Thing project
Oh yeah.
with the director of Logan. I forget.
Um Mangold.
Mangold.
Mangold,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. I think that's really interesting. I want it to be very dark and almost horror esque. And if they do that, sign me the hell up.
Yes.
Um, but the fact that those things aren't really in the main story has me being like, well, if it's not part of the main story, there's a good chance that, Swamp Thing could never happen, which
Yeah.
would suck, which because I'm really excited for. And then the Batman Part 2, I mean, that one's not going to get canceled, hopefully, knock on wood. But again, the fact that those are the main things that I'm excited about is both comforting in the sense where I have something that excites me,
Yeah.
but also frustrating to where like, well, the main story is not really piggybacking off of this. And I'm not saying that I want the Batman to be a part of the DCU.
Yeah, for
I've made
sure.
that very clear in the
Yeah.
past. I do not want that. I
I'm
think
with you on
forcing that
that.
would be a ridiculous,
Mm.
yeah, it'd be a ridiculous decision. But anyway, those are just the main 2 things that excite me. Whereas the DCU, it's almost kind of like a show me why I should be excited type of mentality. Not that I'm like, oh, regardless of what you do, I'm gonna hate it. No, it's like, give me something to be super excited about, and I'm on board.
Yeah. I feel the exact same way. And the Batman, the first one blew me away. Loved that film.
Mhm.
I saw it in IMAX and I was just like, "Oh
Same.
my God." Like, um something that my only thing with the Batman Part 2 is I really do hope that Matt Reeves leans a little bit into the fantastical. I know that he wants to
Just
keep
a
it grounded
smidge.
just a little bit. Like like
Yeah.
like give me a Mr. Freeze, give me,
Yeah.
something. I know he's wanting to stick. I think we have confirmation now that for sure we're getting Two-Face, I guess, cuz they've cast Sebastian Stan.
Yes, which I think is a fantastic
Yes,
casting.
that's amazing. Scarlett Johansson's in there now. I don't know who she's playing.
Mm.
Um uh
Pamela Isley? I could
that
see her
would be
being
cool.
Pamela
Yeah.
Isley.
Yeah, or maybe like Vicky Vale. That would be cool.
Ooh, I think that'd work even
Yeah,
better.
Vicky
Yep.
Vale would be
Yep.
cool. And then I hope, I don't think we're getting Catwoman back in the sequel.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer because I really liked her in the first one and I was hoping she'd kind of evolve into the second
But it
film.
also kind of makes sense because she was leaving for Bloodhaven at the end of the first one. So I
Yes.
guess continuity wise, sure.
Which Bloodhaven, if we ever got, you know, that's a whole nother
Mhm.
thing. But I like the Batman universe a lot, and I hope that
Yeah.
it can continue past. That's the only thing that bums me out is if we get 1 and 2 and then nothing else, and then we got the
Yeah.
Penguin, obviously. But I love the Batman, and I think that you're right. The people that want those to be merged, I have never understood that ever
Never.
because it is James Gunn's Superman and Matt Reeves' Batman do not. And people will say, well, that's why it would work so well because you've got super serious Batman and like lighthearted fun
But it's not just
Superman.
the characters, it's
It's
their
the world.
worlds.
Yes, I
Yeah.
cannot look at Metropolis that's in Superman and see that coexisting with the grimy like noir looking the
Mhm.
Batman. It doesn't mesh to me. I guess.
No.
But the Batman definitely, and then Swamp Thing, if that ever gets off the ground, would be, oh my God, I would love a Swamp Thing. Is it supposed to be a series or a movie? Do you know?
I thought it was supposed to be a movie.
Movie, okay.
Um, because they did a
Yeah,
series back, of course, with the DC Direct. Is that what it was
pretty
called?
good actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
DC Direct. Yeah, I actually liked that, and the effects for Swamp Thing in that series for a TV show were like really good.
yeah.
He was
So
ripped
give me at
straight out of
least
the.
yeah, so, like, give me at least some of that plus, like, some extra CGI to get some more, like, grimy and, like,
Yeah.
moving vines and stuff in there, like, dude, yes, give me
Oh,
that, and horror vibes, yes.
Clayface as well. That's another one that we haven't touched on.
Oh,
That's already
yeah.
filmed pretty much. I think they're done filming on that. So
Really?
yeah, I mean they started. I think it was like what, September of last year that the set photos came out.
You're blowing my mind right now.
Yeah,
I
I'm
did
pretty
not see
sure.
any of those.
Oh yeah, there were whole set photos of Clayface. And then because there was a whole internet uproar because the set decorators had put, because it takes place in Gotham. So
Mm.
the set decorators had put like stickers and stuff on dumpsters and things, and one of the stickers was of Matt Reeves' Batman's logo,
Oh,
of
no.
Pattinson's Batman's logo. So the internet went into like an uproar. And then they asked James Gunn about it on Threads, and he replied, and he was like, "I don't have any control over what the props department puts on, set decoration and stuff." And I'm like,
I mean, that's kind of fair, but also that sounds like a bit of a cop out, I guess. Because, like,
yeah,
I don't know.
he's good at like a non-answer. Like
Yeah.
he's like the king of like, I'm answering the question, but I'm also not answering the question. So
Mhm.
I, I as soon as I saw that,
Very
I was like,
cheeky.
yeah, I was like, oh man, no, please no. But thankfully, it did not look like the Gotham in the set photos. At least in the set photos, does not look like Matt Reeves' Gotham.
Okay.
It looks like a almost like a 1980s Gotham, or
Interesting.
like 1970s. It's kind of how they did with Superman, where Superman almost had like a 70s aesthetic with like people wearing like the
Mm.
orange like vests and bell bottoms, and it
Yeah.
kind of had that vibe. So because apparently Clayface connects to Superman, it's in the same universe.
Okay.
So,
Hmm.
you know, I hope that they can make that work. But yeah, overall, like I want the DCU to succeed. It's just I'm having a lot of like, every time I get excited about it, there's always like three things that just like put a damper on it for me. So I
Yep.
would love just a good run of being excited about what's coming up.
And
Over
that
the
just
next
goes
couple
for
of years.
superhero films in general. I mean,
Yeah,
I
honestly.
know a couple years ago, I got a lot of flack for talking about superhero fatigue
Mhm.
and how it was kind of a real thing. People were like, "Oh, you're ridiculous. They will never die. They will never die in popularity." And it's like now we're in the year 2026 and there's a lot of people that don't really know anything about Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah.
And who would have thought a major Avengers movie would A, not have a trailer in the Super Bowl, and B, not necessarily be talked about a whole lot outside of, like, diehard fans.
Like Twitter is basically the place where everybody's talking about it. Outside, like
Yeah.
I talk to my family, I'll mention it, and they're like, "Oh, there's another Avengers movie." And
Yeah.
I'm when
Imagine saying something like that in 2018.
oh, they knew that Infinity War and Endgame and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
They were like, "Oh my god," it's a bummer with that, because I feel like with Marvel, um, they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit,
Yes.
and a lot of it has to do with the multiverse. Because what they've done now is they've set up this expectation where every movie that you watch, you're waiting for these moments where like characters from other properties are coming in, and like there's all these
Mhm.
crossovers. When before you didn't go into Infinity War thinking you were going to see like, Ben Affleck's Daredevil, like
Yeah.
you went
No,
into it for those characters.
and what's funny is that, I'll mention this and we can probably move on to the next topic if you want, but, there was a video that I made when I was first starting to do YouTube stuff, and, my little brother and I sat down, and the title of the video was "Why the MCU Needs to End," in parentheses, "or at least take a break." And, I mean, I've kinda gone through and got rid of a lot of old videos, but I look back on things that I and my brother said in that video, and it's like, "Man, people hated what we said, but we were right on the freaking
Spoke the truth.
money.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Like we
Yeah.
said, it needed to take a break, refresh the story. You needed to find some time to write out and introduce new characters that could be interesting and gripping to a new audience. You also needed to recognize that what happened with the Infinity Saga was capturing lightning in a bottle. The reason it was so exciting is because no one had ever done this before,
Hmm?
ever. People had tried doing things like it, but always like failed even getting off the ground. This got off the ground, soared, did triple backflips in the air, and then landed amazingly on the runway. And expecting that to happen one after another is just not realistic. And again, I look back on that and I was like, man, you know what? I can't see the future, but that was a moment where I felt like I think I kind of did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You should have some lottery numbers at that point, honestly. That yeah. I mean, I think I had the same thoughts too around that time, just because like it's ridiculous to think that they could repeat the exact same thing that happened with Infinity War and Endgame, and they've introduced some really cool characters.
Yeah,
Like I love Shang-Chi. I thought he's awesome. Like the way that they integrated him into the movies was cool. But
yeah,
I mean, why I'm not as excited to see him pop up in Doomsday, because where has he been? Like what is his story? But he just kind of nothing happened. Like,
yeah.
they introduced him, he disappeared, and now he's just gonna walk into the frame in the middle of the movie and be like, "Hey guys, Shang-Chi here." Like,
Yeah, I was like, "Hi, I do karate."
yeah.
Like,
It's like
okay,
I
who
need
are
the
you?
context of stuff,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think we're both just we're kind of on the same page. We're excited for stuff coming up, but just hesitant because of some of the decisions that have been made in the
100%,
DCU. Yeah. So
100%.
let's move on to our second topic, which is Fallout Season 2. Have you watched it?
I actually just finished it 2 days ago.
Oh, perfect
This
timing.
is fresh in my brain.
Yeah, good, good, good.
But what's funny is that when it first came out, I mean, I played a little bit of Fallout growing up, mostly New Vegas. So when the show came out, I was excited to watch it. But I have this weird thing, and people out there might think this is just the dumbest thing, but it's just how my brain works. If something gets overhyped and recommended to me over and over and over again, my brain has this natural inclination to not do that thing.
Oh man, I get that.
Like, it's this weird hipster part of my brain where it's like, oh, it's getting told, like, I'm being told to watch this over and over. Maybe I'm not gonna watch it, even though I
I'm
really
good.
really want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll wait a while, and then I'll finally watch, and then I'll tell those people that told me, like, "Hey, it's actually really good." And they're like, "I freaking told you. Why didn't you just watch what I told you about?" It? I was like, "I'm sorry. It's just how my brain works."
Yeah.
But yes, I finally started watching the show altogether a little over a month ago. Binged through the first season, absolutely freaking loved it. Then finished the second season, and yeah, finally caught up.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, I was wondering if you gotten through the second season. It's like I didn't think they could top the first one, but to me they did with the second one.
Mm.
Sure. How do you feel about it, like in terms of both?
I think the first season, I absolutely freaking loved it. The vibes were perfect. I loved the set design. To me, there's just all sorts of different nods to stuff in Fallout lore. Like again, I've played a little bit of the games, but I'm more so like just read up a lot on the lore and watched videos on deep dives of the different vaults and different things and stuff like that. In fact, Suggestive Gaming is a channel I watch a lot where he just breaks down, like he has like 5-hour videos of the lore of certain things. I think he made a video or somebody else did, and so I know a decent amount about it. But first season I thought was just great. I loved the storylines of all the characters. I especially love Cooper Howard. He's
Yeah.
my favorite. Whenever he's on screen, I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, what's happening?
And the second season I still loved, not quite as much as the first. And I think the main reason for it is because it's still a great show. It's a great season. I don't think there's anything really terribly wrong with it. The thing that kind of made it slightly lesser to me was a pacing issue.
Oh yeah.
Because in the first season, you have separate storylines that are happening, but I feel like they converged a lot more frequently than they did in the second.
Yeah.
It's like the first half of the second season, you have all these different separate stories happening. So I feel like you spent 5 minutes on this one, 5 minutes on this one, 5 minutes, and then go back and forth. It didn't really feel like each story had any room to breathe for the first little bit. And then finally, when characters came together, like again, Cooper and Lucy were doing their thing, and then Max is off doing his thing. Then you have Thaddeus, and you have all these different things happening at the same time. Then, of course, you have Lucy's dad. I forget his name off the top of my head. But like all these different things happening at the same time. And slowly as they come together, that's when the pacing started to be like, okay, great. We're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
We're having actual storyline that continues for longer than what feels like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the main thing that really bothered me. But outside of that, everything else was fantastic. I loved exploring more of the lore and get more about the Enclave, the Legion. I thought that was awesome because again, I've watch through a lot of these videos, and recently I watched through a video talking about the lore of the Legion, and so when they came
Oh
up,
yeah, you were like,
and of course Macaulay Culkin is like, "Hey,
yep,
I'm refreshed on this." But I just have absolutely loved it. You can tell that the people who are making this show love the lore of the games.
for
You can
sure.
tell there's a lot of love there. When that happens with an adaptation, it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I agree. That you can see it in every the fact that they built most of the stuff for the show and didn't just try to add things in digitally. Like
Yeah.
you can tell that they're acting with actual sets and things. That's one thing. I feel like that's something that like Star Wars has kind of fallen into a little bit where the
Mm.
whole big thing with Star Wars used to be we with George Lucas we're building the sets we have he fell into the blue screen thing a little bit with the prequels
Just
but
exploring
yeah,
technology. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean now you can tell with the Fallout show that they really have a tactile like world and they've
Yeah.
established like canon and the fact that they integrated it into the story of the games also made me enjoy it more.
Mhm.
If it had just been like an adaptation but not like connected to the games, I don't know if I would have been as like interested in it.
Yeah, and
But
also, like, one thing to me that I just love, and it's not really a huge thing, but all the different company logos that you see on the buildings and the signs, and even companies that are in Fallout lore, but, like, you're not really gonna explore in the show. Like, there's
yeah,
no, like, story purpose for them being there. It's just to build that world, and it's just like, okay, they're aware of this. Like, seeing the sarsaparilla soda cans
yeah,
and stuff is really
yeah,
cool. Or, like, oh gosh, there's another company that it's a building they go into. Of course, not Vaultech, but it's another one where you don't really know what that company's all about, but you go into it and you see those signs and those logos and things, and again, it's like they transported you into the world of the game where they could have been super lazy and just had regular signs there.
yeah,
They could have just had the post-apocalyptic vibe, none of those logos or anything there. But
sure.
no, they took the time to make sure those are incorporated and show you, hey, this is a totally different world, and we care enough about it to just include these small little things that fans will freak out about.
Yes, yes, and that was something I was worried about when the first season was coming out was that I was worried because of the way Fallout's structured. It's they live in a different timeline than us, even in the past.
Yeah.
So their history diverged in like the 1950s, and then the 1950s culture stuck around, but they developed like fusion power and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I was a little worried in the first season that they were going to make the before the bomb stuff just 1950s. Like
Mhm.
just 1950s cars, just standard, but they took the time to actually like make that you're in a different like timeline.
Yes.
That they could have easily it would have been easier honestly just to make it 1950s. But they took the extra step and I think it really shows in the show and and the casting that's another thing that's been really like important to the
Mhm.
show for me. With especially with Walton Goggins, man, yeah, like you're right. Like Cooper is such a good character.
And the
Especially
effects for him, the makeup and everything is just
yes.
so freaking
Well, it
good.
was smart of them to do it's all prosthetic except for the nose, which
Yep.
was the smartest possible thing to do because if they had went all CG for it like they do with some people and some roles, I felt like I wouldn't have cared as much about it. But the
Mhm.
fact that it's all prosthetics and then they just edit out his nose is perfect. It's just
Yeah.
great. In terms of like so season 1 and season 2, I definitely enjoyed season 2 a little bit more. It did have pacing problems for sure.
Mhm.
Um and a lot of it had to do with I think because in the first season like what you were saying everything that was happening in the story was building to the same goal.
Yes.
So everything was building to the same end point. Whereas in season 2 there's a lot of storylines that don't have to do with the main plot line.
Right.
Like the vault running out of water. Um and honestly, some of it did eventually come together. Like I didn't really know how the Steph thing with the where she was overseer and she had killed spoilers by the way where she had killed Woody and things like that. Like I wasn't sure. I was like, now how does this have to do with like the Enclave and stuff and like all that?
Mhm.
But you find out she's an Enclave like sleeper agent
Right.
for Vault-Tec, and they did a good job of like weaving some of it together. But there was definitely stuff. by the end of the series that I was like, no, wait a minute. Like,
Yeah, it becomes slightly disjointed, which you could argue is a bit more realistic as far as,
yeah,
not everything's gonna come together, but it does kind of you compare it to the cohesion of the first season, like you said, everything built to the
it was
same end
tight.
goal.
Season
Yeah,
one
it
was
was
very
very
tight.
tight.
Yeah.
Second season, a little bit more loose, which for being loose, it still worked out really well. It's just when you watch one season after the other, there's definitely a noticeable difference in how the story develops.
Yeah, and I think part of that actually is like a scope problem. Because like the
Yes.
first season, the scope of it, because it's a first season, wasn't as quite as grand as the second season. So when you
Mhm.
get into season two and you've got this plot line of like, this like group of what was left of America's government is like controlling everything, and these three people have to find a way to stop them. Essentially, like that's a way bigger, storyline than season one,
Yeah.
which was mainly like Lucy's trying to find her dad. That was it,
Yeah.
like
And that's a concern I kinda have with season 3. I hope they do it well because now, again, spoilers for people who haven't watched it. I mean, you have Cooper, he's on his way to Colorado, right? So he's going further, I guess, from him further east. And, Lucy and Maximus are, involved in what's gonna be a big showdown out in Vegas. And so now you have them disconnected and you have Norm with the vault situation. Um, and so I just fear that there might still be pacing issues just because of how not
yeah.
disjointed, but disconnected everything might end up becoming. Now, there might be something that brings Maximus and Lucy, out east, maybe. It's possible. I mean, there were some hints of what was going on there with the Enclave and things with Lucy's dad and all that. So there's ways they can make it work. But again, if they just make it to where we spend just a little bit more time or a little bit more story at a time with each character to where you don't get frustrated each time they cut away to the next story. It's like, "No, I was watching
Yeah,
that."
I
What are you
love
doing? It's like they're
so
changing the
many
channel
times I
on you, you
did
know?
that. Oh my god. I think, and this is just a theory, but I think they're gonna have everybody move east to Colorado. Um,
It only makes sense, yeah.
because they purposely ended the second season with Lucy and Maximus standing in houses, an apartment, I guess.
Mhm.
But they have them standing there, and then you see House flash back on the screen. I think House knows now that Cooper is going to Colorado,
Yeah.
so I think he's gonna tell Lucy and Max where, because he needs somebody to take him with him. So like he's gonna want
Mm,
Lucy and Max to put on a Pit Boy and have House, you know, accompany them, because he wants to find out what's going on with the Enclave.
okay.
So I
I
think
can see that.
I think he's going to kind of recruit Lucy and Max, because obviously his line, "Everybody works for me eventually." He's going to
Yeah.
have Lucy and Max work for him, and then I think that Norm. I think Norm is going to end up bumping back into Lucy and Max. So he's going to get reunited with Lucy before they leave Vegas. Because
Oh,
the
okay.
Vault Tech headquarters isn't, I don't think it's too far from where they're at right now. Um, so I think we'll get all them together, and then they will go looking for the ghoul in Colorado, which is good because that means we've got all of our principal people other than the ghoul together. So then it'd just
Yes.
be two storylines. It'd be the big group and then Cooper Howard, which would be a
Yes.
lot easier to manage. And they're all doing the same thing, which is going out east.
Yes.
So
If they pull that off, then I think it'll be a lot easier to pull off a cohesive story.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and I'm just biased because I want him to take Mr. House with him because I love his character. So I just want more of Mr. House in there. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, I think that's might be where they're heading with it. Trying to keep everybody together because this season everybody was so separate that it just
Yes.
it really did feel like interdimensional cable, because like you'd get through one scene and they're like, all right, here's and then you'll see like the most shocking thing you've ever seen. So like the revelation of the entire show, and then they cut to like the support group in the vault, and they're like, we want more snacks, and I'm like, I don't like,
Don't
all
care what
right,
you want.
man, come on, what about the Enclave? Like, oh god.
Like, I don't wanna deal with club snack politics.
Yeah.
I wanna know what's going on with Cooper Howard and his family.
Yeah, I know. I need to like, oh man. But yeah, I really loved season two. But season one I actually just got on, slight tangent, but um I got it for Christmas on 4K, the first
Ooh,
season.
nice.
when I tell you that I did not think there would be a difference in watching it on Prime on my computer and watching it on 4K on an actual 4K display. Oh my God. It just makes me love physical media more. Oh man.
Oh, dude, same.
I was noticing stuff in the backgrounds of shots in the on the 4K disc that I literally couldn't see on my computer. I was
Mhm.
like, "Whoa, oh my God, what?" Like, so cool.
Ah,
Love it. So that's our thoughts on Fallout Season 2. We're gonna
watch
move
it.
on to our next topic, which is Spider-Man, Spider Noir, and Brand New Day. Just some quick thoughts on these projects coming up. So I'll let you start.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I love the fact I mean, Amazon, once again, doing some fantastic stuff. I mean, Amazon's been on a roll, you know, I know we've had some disagreements on their, Rings of Power adaptation and
Yeah,
stuff
for
like
sure.
that, but as far as everything else, like, you have Invincible, you have Fallout, you have Spider Noir coming out. I mean, Amazon's kind of finding their foothold here, which I'm really liking, but I love the fact that they're offering it both in color and in black and white for people who want more of a noir. I mean, it's in the freaking name. I mean, you want a noir style story and a black and white. I mean, there's that option. It's fantastic. I I love the tone of what they're going for. I've seen a pretty consistent complaint online about Nicolas Cage's age,
Mm,
which I think to an extent can make it a little difficult to believe the web swinging stuff with a guy his age. But at the same time, it's Nicolas Cage. He's a great actor. He's gonna sell it. Of course, his voice was the voice of Spider Noir in Into the Spider Verse. But I'm really looking forward to it. Main thing that just sold me was that you can watch it in both black and white and colors. Like,
yeah.
well, I know exactly how I'm watching it. Thank you very much for giving me the
And it
option. And
looks intentional too. Like if you look
yes,
at the lighting and the way that it actually looks better to me in black and white than it does color, which shows
yes,
that they shot it for black and white, which is a big complaint I have with a lot of stuff nowadays where they just slap a black and white, like they turn the saturation down and they're like it's black and white, and I'm
yep.
like it's not. Like
It's like you clearly don't understand what it takes
no,
to make it look good.
it's actually similar to the way that Zach shot Justice League, because the way that he
Yes.
uses color anyway works great for black and white. And then when he did the Justice is Gray, he actually went back in and mastered it for that black and white. He
Yep.
changed the values of lighting, and like it looks good because it's intentional. So
Yes.
I am watching it in black and white for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I'll eventually check out the True Hue, the way that they phrased it, just to see like if notice anything different. But
Yeah.
with a
I won't watch the
character,
whole way through with color, but, like, I'll
yeah,
see, like,
just check it
how it
out,
compares.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm really excited for it. And as far as his age, I think obviously the swinging stuff is going to be all CG. Um,
Right.
you know, they're not going to have Nick Cage on wires like in front of a blue screen. I don't think. You
I
know,
mean, who knows? I mean, he probably would be like, "No, I really wanna do this,
I'm
like,
way up
this
high.
this is the one thing in my career that
Yeah.
I have not done."
Yeah. Yeah. And also I noticed the way that it's shot is very Raimi-esque. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Mm,
There was an actual shot that was straight out of Darkman, where he's looking up, there's flames around him, and he's like screaming at the camera as it pans up, and I'm like, that was a Raimi shot from Darkman right there. Like I need to post on Twitter the side by side of that, because I'm like, oh my God.
it's the same freaking
Yeah, I'm
thing.
like, I love that because Nick Cage and Sam Raimi, that kind of that meshing together and that vibe is just perfect.
Yeah.
And it's in a Spider-Man project, which I never would have guessed in a million years. But
Yeah.
the question I have, and maybe you might know a little bit more about this in the comic sense of it, is so I know that in this he's Ben Riley, right?
Mhm.
So actually did not know that he was playing a different Spider Noir than in Into the Spider Verse.
Yeah, because in the Spider Noir or in the Spider-Verse, I think he's just a version or
Peter
variant of
Parker.
Peter Parker. So yeah, it is a different version of him. As far as the comics of Spider Noir, I wish I knew more about the comic side of that. When it comes to Spider-Man variants and stuff, there's so many freaking comics
Yeah.
about it. And then you have the multiverse stuff, which like there was a Spider-Man book that I had for a while, and I eventually sold just because it wasn't really my favorite. But it was part of the Clone Saga, which is a notoriously not liked comic saga in Spider-Man comics. but there's so much happening all the time. So many different variants, so many people talking, and it's like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, different universe, different version. And so, although what I think is cool is that it makes it to where it's no longer a conversation of, well, why did he look animated into the Spider Verse and not here?
Yeah.
What is the difference, right? So it's the same concept, just a different universe that's in with live action character actors rather than being animated. I think just kind of avoid that confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Which
makes sense.
they did, but they're not helping themselves a little bit with it though, because they did confirm there would be Spider-Verse Easter eggs in the show.
Mm,
There's going to be little things about the Spider-Verse that they sprinkle into it, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're gonna establish that he's Ben Riley, he's not Peter Parker, then
mm.
I wouldn't put any references to Spider-Verse in there because you're gonna have casual people that are like, oh, so this is the same one. Where's the Rubik's cube? Like,
That's a fair
you
point.
know,
That's a fair point.
which it's going to happen anyway, no matter how much they try to drill in that it's a different. That's the multiverse problem too. Like,
Yes.
I have people that they're not on Twitter, they're not like online a lot, but they have literally asked me, oh, well, like when Wolverine showed up in Deadpool and Wolverine, I thought he died in Logan. And
Yep.
I'm like, no, it's a it's a whole different. He's a different
It's like
version,
they
and
had a whole scene explaining why that was the case. And so it comes down to storytelling and in many cases an audience problem,
yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
We live in such a attention deficit world where regardless of how much you spell things out, people are like, I don't get it. It's like, well, how else do we speak the same language? I'm
Yeah,
saying words, right?
yeah,
Like I'm explaining it pretty clearly. Yeah, it's just I don't envy screenwriters at all because a lot of times they'll be like writing out things in the most the plain way possible to the point where it's almost spoon feeding you. And so
yeah.
the audience that gets things pretty easily is like, okay, I get it. But then the rest of the audience is just like, I still don't understand.
Well, I think that's why we're in like an age where like, we have this like dissonance between like the regular audience and then like the diehard audience because
The cinephiles,
the
yeah.
cinephiles, people like us that talk on podcasts about movies. You have this disconnect because now they're writing movies more for the general audience. So we're just watching it
Yeah.
like this is the most mind-numbing. I get it. Like I understand the plot.
Like move on.
Yeah,
Hello,
okay.
let's go.
That happened several times in Deadpool and Wolverine for me, and I liked the movie, but they
Yeah.
just several different occasions where they're like, "Hey, remember? Like these are variants. This isn't look like I understand." Like,
It's like, oh, jingle, jingle. All right,
yeah,
pay attention. Here you
yeah.
go.
You see? Yeah. Here's your keys. Um, but yeah, as far as Spider Noir, I'm super excited for it. Brand New Day is one that I
Mm.
am a little worried about. I like the director and I like the vibe that they're going for. From what I've seen, the only thing that worries me is the amount of rumored villains for this movie. Which
See,
is
that's one thing that I don't really know a whole lot about. I mean, I've heard people talk about things like Scorpion
yeah.
or actually that's the main one that I've really heard about, actually.
Well, spoilers for anybody, and I'm not gonna fully dive into it or anything, but there are rumors right now that there's like a Sinister Six level amount of villains in the
Mm,
movie. On top of possibly Hulk, and yeah, and possibly the Punisher. Uh,
I did hear that.
yeah, and it's just I because the director I think has confirmed that this isn't like a multiversal movie, which I'm happy about.
Good.
I just want a regular Spider-Man movie where he's fighting crime and his villains and stuff like that. But I think at a point, it's like we've had the last movie had multiversal Sinister Six essentially,
Mhm.
basically. But I worry that it's going to suffer the same problem as No Way Home did, where I felt like in No Way Home, you have Willem Dafoe back as Green Goblin, and he got maybe 7 or 8 minutes of actual screen time in the movie,
Yep.
and it felt like a huge like I feel like they could have like had just him come back. Don't worry
Yeah.
about Electro, Sandman. Just bring back Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, and that's enough for me to be like, ooh, that's. That's good. Or and just have Doc Ock be the other player or something, and he turns good halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
Um, but I worry that about Brand New Day, where they're going to shove so much in here that we're going to be like, oh, I want to see more about Scorpion, or I want to see more about this other character, and they're going to pop up for 2 seconds. He's going to fight them, and then they're out.
Well, especially with Scorpion because he's been teased since Homecoming.
Yeah,
I mean, we haven't seen anything from him since.
yeah,
And so now it's kind of like the other thing we are talking about where you kind of have to show like, okay, what's this character been up to? Where has he been? How does he get to this point? Like Shang-Chi, you were talking about that. Like all of
yeah.
a sudden he's going to appear in
He
Doomsday.
shows
Like,
up.
well, where the frick
Yeah,
has he been?
yeah,
And so when it comes to having a lot of villains, like there's not a great track record in comic book films of having a lot of villains in one movie,
yeah,
or at least not in the views of the general audience, right? Usually, movies with a lot of villains tend to not get well received because they feel like there's just too much happening all at once. Characters are not given enough time, and so one of a couple things needs to happen. Either it needs to be a longer movie in order to satisfy the needs of the characters in the story, or you need to just write it out as perfectly as possible, which given the state of a lot of screenwriting today,
yeah,
I don't necessarily have a whole lot of hope for. Or you just I don't man, I don't know. It's one of those things it's a hard balance to achieve. Again, considering the fact that hardly anyone's ever actually done it.
yeah, yeah,
But my main thing is with Brand New Day is if you at least give us cool action sequences and give us some good web swinging
yes,
with Tom Holland
please,
for once,
yeah,
please. Like last time we saw really great web swinging was TASM 2.
yeah. Which
And that's
you and I both are TASM 2 enjoyers, so
oh, love TASM 2. I
yeah.
mean, I have the collector's edition up there where
Oh
it has
man,
like 8 hours of bonus content. It's honestly ridiculous how much I love those
yeah.
movies. But anyway, give me some good web swinging with Tom Holland for once. And then just man, just build out his world a little bit, you know? And one thing that I'm sure they're gonna do is they're gonna, go into his sort of loneliness that he feels this new life, no longer, being attached to his friends and of course MJ and all that stuff. I just hope that that is not over focused on,
Oh
right? I
yeah,
because there's been some time, like make it to where he still feels that, like he'll see MJ every now and then because he worries about her, but it's not as if he's just obsessing about it all the time and he's just moping around.
yeah,
No, he's kind of moved on a little bit, but he's also still cares about his people,
yeah,
right?
for sure. I want him to definitely have new struggles that he's dealing with because I feel like that's
Yes.
important. Because he has been hyper focused on. I'm over Ned and MJ. Like I
Mm,
want a clean slate. Like maybe he meets like he meets he meets another comic book character that they can incorporate into the story. Maybe, I mean, of course, I would love it if he meets Gwen Stacy. Um,
Gwen Stacy or Silk would be interesting.
yeah,
I don't know how well they'd be received, but it'd be interesting.
yeah, just somebody else. Honestly, like a counterpart that has similar powers to him. That's not like
Yeah.
a variant of him would be really cool.
Yeah.
But it just feels like in the other movies that they've really had him hyper focused on Ned and MJ, and that was like the main. Half his screen time was just him in the school talking to Ned and MJ, and I'm like, I want the Spider-Man stuff. Like,
Yes. Yes.
I want, I want him like breaking into labs and finding out information about the villains and like, you know, breaking down like warehouses full of enemies and it just the games are a good example. Well, the first game, I wasn't a huge fan of the second game, but the
Mm,
the the Insomniac games are a good example of like they balanced the Spider-Man stuff with his everyday life and things.
yeah.
And having his like relationship with MJ in the first game be like tested and you know I like that kind of thing in the character, and I think he needs conflict because Spider-Man unfortunately is a character that's better when he's kind of depressed.
That is
Just
such a meme in the Spider-Man
I know.
community where like Spider-Man happy? Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Get rid of it. I
get
hate
out of
it.
here. Yeah, well, I mean, because he's a character where he he has like unwavering optimism. He
Yeah.
he he uses his persona as Spider-Man to mask a lot of what is going on in his life. He
Yeah.
loses Uncle Ben, and the first thing that he does is decide that he's going to fully commit to the Spider-Man
Yep.
persona. It's and I've always liked that about the character, and I feel like they in the last couple movies they've had him instead of dealing with it as Spider-Man, he just deals with it as Peter Parker. So we get half a
Yeah.
movie of just like road trip with Peter Parker and his buddies, and it's like, you know, unfortunately, the worst one for me, Far From Home. I cannot stand that movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't, I hate that. Homecoming, I loved. But Far From Home, not
Well,
so
a lot
much.
has to do with Michael Keaton, just
Oh,
masterclass
and that's a
performance as
great
the Vulture.
example of one villain, and the one villain is given time to actually be fleshed out over the whole movie.
Yep.
I mean, my favorite scene of that movie is him in the car with Peter. Neither
Yeah.
one of them are in costume, but he's terrifying. And I'm
Yep.
like, oh man, God, like I would be scared, you know.
Yeah, it's like, holy crap, it's like you have the cape and cowl on again, Michael Keaton. You're kind of scaring the piss out of
Channeling
everybody.
Batman a little bit, dude. But I want that for these villains in Brand New Day. I want
Yeah.
them to get highlighted, and I definitely want there to be some like tension and some stuff between and them, and it not just be like, oh, we know you're Peter Parker, because that seems to be the main thing that they always do in the movies, where it's
Hmm.
like, we know your secret identity. It's like, okay. uh, um but yeah, so that I'm excited about it. I want both Spider Noir and Brand New Day to be great. I think
Yeah.
Spider Noir, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like it already.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
kind of don't have a doubt, even if it's campy and like a little bit weird, but I expect that with Nicolas Cage and a, almost like noir driven, because yeah, it's a series, so I mean, and it's dropping all at once, so it's basically gonna be like a big movie. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for it for sure.
Very, very stoked. I mean, anything that has like noir vibes and black and white, like immediately has my interest peaked. So
Yes, yes. So we're gonna move on, and we've actually got a spotlight right now on your brand new comic that you're working on, and so tell us a little bit about Glitch.
yeah, so we're currently funding Glitch issue 1. It's going to be the first of a 3-issue miniseries. It is a sci-fi suspenseful drama about an android who, like a live-in assistant android, who's trying to understand his place in the world and trying to understand, what it means to be human. And if people out there really like things like Ex Machina, Bicentennial Man, iRobot, Chappie, then this is the type of book that should intrigue you because it falls in that genre of, kind of discussing the implications of artificial intelligence and what happens when artificial intelligence gets to a certain point. How does a robot think? How does a robot interpret the world around him? And a way that I've kind of described the philosophical things of what I'm going for is, imagine if you, with all of your knowledge and understanding of the world you live in, were suddenly dropped onto a completely foreign alien world with its own morals, customs, ideas, and you were forced to adjust, but you only had a limited exposure to the people in that society. How would you interpret those things? Would you get a false sense of what's right and wrong? Would you come to your own conclusions that in your own twisted logic makes sense, but to everyone else around you seems obscene or horrible, right? And that's kind of things I'm trying to explore with this book. And what's cool is that this comic is something that's been about 17 years in the making.
Oh wow.
Of course, I've been working on the book, like the art and everything, for 17 years. That'd be nuts. But I've had this character concept in my brain for about that amount of time. In fact, my little brother and I, when he was 5 and I was 12, we would read through those Marvel character encyclopedias all the time, to the point where the spine was like falling off and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I can't remember if it was him or me, but that like initially like stated it, but we decided we were just going to make our own encyclopedia of characters. We're going to make our own comic universe, as it will. And we made a bunch of heroes, villains, anti-heroes, and all this stuff. And one of the characters we made was this android, this rogue android named Glitch. And of course, when we made him, he was more like golden silver age comic villain of the week type of thing. Like, oh, you'll never catch me. I'm going to destroy humanity. Like that type of thing. Very cheesy, very campy. But I've shared this story multiple times now, but when I was working in a manufacturing plant a number of years ago, it was one of those days where just I was able to muscle memory, do everything that I needed to do, and just let my mind kind of wander a little bit. And this is back like during like the heyday of like YouTube stuff, when we, are both doing all those different things, during slightly post COVID and all that. And in one work shift, I suddenly had this story just like kind of playing like a movie in my head. And it featured this character, but of course, a reimagining of the themes of the character and stuff like that. And again, within one work shift, I had a outline for a 3-issue miniseries for a comic.
Wow.
And I was like, I need to do something with this because this does not happen to me at all. I don't claim myself to be a writer. That's not an aspiration that I have, but I knew that I needed to do something with it. And so over the past couple of years, I've been ironing out the script, getting different people's opinions on it. I have some comic creators who have looked at it and give me some tips. And I have brothers who are writers, and I've gotten some good input from them. In fact, my little brother who co-created the character with me, he wrote about 90% of what's going to be issue number 2, which of course we'll do a Kickstarter for that once, everything's all said and done with the first issue. But again, it very much falls in line with the sci-fi, artificial intelligence, androids, the implications of that. It's definitely more of a slower burn. It's not like a super action explosion comic, but it's more of a look into the perspective of the android, which I think is one thing that separates what I'm doing with my story from a lot of other stories in the same genre, is that in my book, you get the inner monologue of the android throughout the book.
Ooh.
And so you kind of see his thought process, how it evolves and in some ways devolves. And you can kind of see how he sees things and understand where he's coming from. But you also watch the things that he does with that information. It's like, oh, he kind of has the right idea, but he's not applying it in the way that I think they should, which of course is intentional. But I've been very, very excited about this book, and I've been working on it alongside Dan Kemp, who, for those out there who don't know, he worked on Spawn, Amazing Spider-Man. He recently worked on a new Spawn title called I Saw Santa. And if you talk to him, he'll tell you he's done everything in comics, from all the independent companies, Marvel, DC. And him and I have been working hand in hand on, figuring out the Kickstarter and also storytelling. And it's just been really, really exciting to work on. I could not be happier with how it's turning out so far. And I'm pretty deep into production of issue 2 already.
Oh wow. That is so cool that it's something that you've been thinking about that long. Like,
Yeah.
so many inspirations that I have come from when I was a kid and things that I thought about as a kid, and most of the things I've never manifested into something as an adult. But the fact
Mhm.
that you're taking something that you were inspired by as a kid with you and your brother and like making it a reality is just awesome.
It's a real culmination of, I guess, our childhood, I guess, and it's a fun way of keeping our childhood alive. And um, what's funny is that the way that it just kind of flooded in my head. I used to make fun of, not like out loud, but I internally make fun of creative and artistic people who would say, "Well, I didn't so much like write the story as I so much like received it. I like manifest like received it in my brain." And it's like I can't really make fun of those people anymore because I've kind of had an experience like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So it's like, well, either I'm a hypocrite or I just shut up, So that was really cool. Again, it was one of those things where I just knew I have to do something with this. And in
Yeah.
fact, I can show off some of the interior inks with this preview copy that I have left over from a convention and stuff. So I did the pencils, I did the inks, I did the script, and of course I got Dan Kemp with the colors, and I got Nikki Powers to do the letters, because it's a whole science in and of itself. Because I did like
Oh yeah.
the letters myself at first, and I wasn't satisfied. But you just kind of see like the bones of the inks and stuff like that. And one thing I'd like to show people is that actually on this page, there's a fun cameo of my late grandpa, a young version of him actually right here.
Oh
And
wow.
he's even mentioned by name, like, oh, Henry's got the box, he's got it. And because what's fun about that is that my grandpa throughout his life was known as a very strong guy. Played college football, did weight lifting competitions when he had 4 kids at home. Just a very, very strong guy. And so it's fun to, give him a little bit of a shout out, and just kind of include that in something that I've been building for a good chunk of my life.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. It's really shaping up, man, and I'm excited to look at it and read it. For sure. We're gonna link the Kickstarter down in the description. So if anybody wants to go and contribute to this awesome Kickstarter, please feel free to do that. And we appreciate supporting creators and people that are making things, because that is the most important thing right now, is supporting independent creators. So that
Absolutely.
is
And
fantastic.
there's a lot of fun reward tiers for people. Like, people see Kickstarters like, well, I don't have like 40 or $50 to fork over. Well, there's a tier as low as $3 for a digital copy. And what's cool is we have a lot of different other rewards, like, people love in the comic world variant covers. So you have like a cover A that I have, and then cover B. We're actually working on a secret third variant that we're hopefully going to be revealing here in the next week or so. That's really, really exciting, and I'm just super stoked. I love variant covers, especially like I'll go to the comic shop and there'll be a new comic that comes out and a variant is done by an artist that I love. And it's like, well, I'm going to get that one. Sorry, main cover A, but I'm going to get that one because I love the artist.
Yeah.
But I'm very much excited about where it's going, where the story goes from here, and also just incredibly humbled by the support that we've gotten so far. It's 43% funded,
Wow.
with I think 18 days left in the campaign, and and just the people that have read it or read the preview and have just given all sorts of kind words has just been incredible.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm glad to know that it's going good, and I hope that we can get you some more Kickstarter people on there to check it out. And I know that, I mean, it's for $3 that you couldn't contribute to something better than that. You get a digital copy too. That's awesome. So
Yeah, absolutely. And each
fantastic.
other tier also gets a digital copy. So if you don't feel like reading the physical ones, just putting them in your comic boxes, you have a digital one. So there
I'm
you
gonna
go.
want a
Win-win.
physical one for sure.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
obviously.
um, all right. So speaking of comics, really quick, we're gonna move on to the bookshelf. So what are we reading right now? It could be a novel, it could be a comic book, but whatever book you currently got open and you're taking a look at. So I'll let you start off.
My nightstand frequently looks like a miniature library a lot of the time because I find myself reading a lot of different things at the same time. So right now, my wife and I, we haven't been able to read together for a little bit, but we'll have like one book we read together. Like I'll read out loud to her, and then other books we'll read on her own. And that book is it's part of the Cosmere, Brandon Sanderson. It's the Stormlight Archive. I believe it's Rhythm of War is the one we're reading, which these books are like massive,
Oh, like
huge books.
tomes, yeah.
Yeah, they're massive. And so we're reading that, and by myself, I'm reading through the Spawn Compendium 1 because I recently got the second compendium, so I wanted to read through the first one, then read right into the second one. And I've read that, and it's McFarlane and Capullo are like my guys as far as comic art is concerned. So got to read through that. And another thing I'm reading for the first time is The Neverending Story. It's a translation of it, an English translation from Michael Ende, I think is his name, or Ende. He's a German. But I'm reading through it for the first time because I watched the movie growing up all the time. I mean, it's,
Oh yeah, the
dark
classic.
fantasy classic,
Mhm.
right? And one thing funny about it is that halfway through the book is where the movie ends.
I've heard that before, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I've
so the
never read
past
it.
like 4 or 5 chapters has been all new stuff. So it's funny because like when you read a book that has been adapted and you've seen the adaptation first, right? Throughout the whole book, you can kind of see like where things are in your head. You can kind of see the visuals, you can see the characters, right? Because you've had a visual version made for you. And that was the truth for the first half of the Neverending Story. Then when I got to halfway through, it's like I have no visual context for this. I have to rewire my brain to be more in
Yeah.
interpretive mode now, whereas before I didn't have to. And so it's been really interesting and somewhat jarring, but still really cool to see, where this came from. And it's really interesting. I've been enjoying it for sure. I want to read or watch the movie again after I'm done with it. And part of me is tempted to try to watch the sequels to see if they took some stuff in the second half of the book into those, but the sequels are not great. So we'll see if that actually ends up happening, but I'll at least watch the first one after I'm
Oh
done.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I am actually reading Absolute Wonder Woman right at the moment. I have
Nice.
not read it yet. I know it was came out in like 24, I think.
Mhm.
And I just had a lot going on, but I've people have been really ragging on me to read the Absolute stuff. So, I love Wonder Woman, so I was like, I'll give it a shot, and I am loving it so far.
I have the
It's
first issue, a variant cover of the first issue.
I think, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm up to. It's the one she's riding on the. I think it's a Pegasus. I think I haven't gotten to.
Skeleton,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so cool.
Yeah, it's sick. And I actually just got a trade paperback of volume 1 of Absolute Batman. I haven't read through it yet because I have a copy of issue 1 second printing. But I think I cracked that one open and read it, but I got so far behind in collecting comics. But Absolute Wonder Woman is freaking cool.
Loving it so far. I do wish I had the physical copies because I prefer cracking open an actual like comic most of the time.
Yeah.
But I'm reading them on the app. But I eventually want to, once I figure out if I like all of them, I'm gonna get like the whole set. I'm gonna try to like
Yes.
I if they do like an omnibus or something, I want like the whole big thing of the comics because I'm loving it so far, and I love how like twisted it is. I just love, God, it's so good. I'm trying to remember the let's see. Oh, Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman.
Yes.
Written by Kelly Thompson. Art is Hayden Sherman, and the art and the story is just so good. Both are just fantastic. I am loving it so far.
I just love how free the Absolute Universe is,
Yeah,
you know?
it's not constrained in any way.
Mhm.
They're like, what if we did this? That'd be cool. All right, do it. Like
Yeah.
Batman's bat symbol is a giant axe. Let's just do it, guys. Come on.
Freaking love that.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot actually of Heavy Metal. It's like if Heavy
Mm,
Metal, the magazine, and like the DC universe blended together, and there's
yeah.
something about that that just works so perfectly.
Wait, hold on. Have you read Dark Knight's Metal and Death Metal?
No, I've seen it, never read
Dude,
it.
if you like the idea of heavy metal and DC mixing together, you'll freaking love that.
Really?
It's
Okay.
it's from Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, and I have the absolute edition of both of those,
Okay.
which I got on Amazon for like 40 a piece. Was a really crazy sale.
Wow.
Anyway, um, no, you'll absolutely love those. Those are some of my favorite books, just because the art is just
Yeah,
incredible.
I've seen stuff about him. I've just never. I love when that kind of style mixes with comic book characters. I'm gonna have to check
Yeah,
that out actually. Uh,
it's dope.
right now, and then book wise, I'm actually reading. Let's see if I can grab it right here. I'm reading some R.A. Salvatore, Dritz,
Oh,
Dungeons and Dragons stuff. This is from Neverwinter. I'm on book number 3 of Charon's Claw, and it
okay.
is I love D&D books. They're some of my
Oh, that's like
favorites.
officially tied into the D&D lore. Is that
Yeah, it's R.A. Salvatore is one of the biggest Dungeons and Dragons authors. And
okay?
this is from the character Dritz, which is my favorite. He's a dark elf. Um, and this is the third book in this saga. There's like 20 or 30 Dritz books.
Holy cow!
Yeah, and they're all like huge. I love D&D books. That's always been one of my my obsessions. So I'm currently reading that, and I'm reading Absolute Wonder Woman at the moment. So I'm both of those are blending really good together because they're both like very like action heavy and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
loving it.
It's
Um,
funny you mentioned the, D&D. My wife and I have been doing, some, like, live, like, RPG stuff with my brother-in-law, his wife, and my sister-in-law and her husband, and we'll, like, meet online and do it. It's this, RPG called Perils and Princesses,
oh yeah,
and
I've heard of
yeah,
that.
so we've been playing that. We actually have a session coming up this weekend because we had to miss last week because my wife and I were both sick. But it's really cool because I didn't grow up playing D&D. Like we got a starter pack a long time ago, and we like tried a little bit of that. But of course, there's so much lore to D&D at that point
Yeah,
to where jumping into it can be kind of, intimidating. But my brother-in-law is like so into RPG and D&D stuff. Like he's our DM for all intents and purposes, and just is so into it and does such a good job. And it's just been really
that
fun
make
getting
or
into that.
breaks a campaign. The
Yes.
DM, if they're into it or not, you can always tell. And if somebody is really into it and they're enjoying it, you're gonna have so much fun playing.
Oh yeah.
We when I was a kid, we grew up. We didn't have a ton of money, and so we never could afford like the starter kits or any of the stuff like that. So
Yeah.
my like we would just print off like character sheets and come up with our own stories, which was always really fun. Just didn't even have rules or instructions. We would just kind of go with the flow, and
Mhm.
that kind of made me love D&D and playing the video games. Obviously, when I was a kid, but now I just read the books. I
And
need
I'm
to get
assuming
back into.
Baldur's Gate as well?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
played through 3 twice now, I think. I love that game. But I've always been a D&D guy, so that's why I'm on the train of they need to make a sequel to the Dungeons and Dragons movie because I
Yes.
loved that movie. Um,
That was fun.
yeah. But yeah, so that's what we're reading right now, and we are now at the end of the show, guys. So it's been really fun. I've enjoyed talking to you, man.
Absolutely.
Uh, we're gonna have these shows weekly. Looking like next week we're gonna have one on the same day, Thursday. So we'll announce the guest this week, and we'll let you guys know what's going on in the world of Real on Repeat. So, where can they find you at, man?
They can find me on Instagram, DJ32Art or DJW32Art. You can find me on, I guess, X, Blue Sky, what's it called? Threads, TikTok as well. Just look up DJ Wiedrich or DJW Art or DJW32Art. One of those variants will get you to me. It's all the same profile picture. You can also find, again, my Kickstarter, kickstarter.com, and type in glitch number 1 and help us get that funded. And also ArtStation. I have a ArtStation portfolio site, which I actually need to update with some
You
of
to
the
follow you
glitch
on there.
cover art. Yeah, I need to update with some of the glitch cover art on there and just some other projects that I've done. But yeah, those are the places people can find me. Thank you for having me, man.
Fantastic. Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I'll link that Kickstarter down in the description for anybody that wants to go check that out. We would really appreciate that. And you can find me on X and Instagram, Aaron Bailey Art on both. So thank you guys so much, and it's been a pleasure talking to you, man.